So you've been dipping your nails and you love it and you want to add nail art, but then you remember you can't draw. What are you going to do? What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. Today we are going to do all about how to stamp over dip powder nails and the easiest way to do that. So if you're somebody who wants to add some really fun nail art, but you can't draw like me, then this is going to be your go-to method. First, we're going to start with our dip powder mani as the base. And I have builder gel on my natural nails, and then I go in with a layer of peel base because I like to change my nails a lot, typically every 4 to 7 days, depending on, like how crazy my life is at that point. When I'm doing dip over peel base, I do a layer of dip base over my entire nail so that my dip applies evenly. And if you're somebody who's using peel base, this is going to help you if you're using it over a builder gel. Then once you apply your dip base layer, you let that fully dry, and then you can go in and you can dip like normal. And for this mani, I'm using this really light, gorgeous pink called Fighter, and it is a neutral color that I absolutely love. I thought it'd be really fun to show how you can use nail art over top of light colors to really make the nail art pop via stamping. If any of you know me and know that I just cannot draw that great, I've done a couple drawing types of nail art on my manis, and let's just say they don't usually turn out great. That is not going to deter me. So when I'm gonna do a stamping mani, and really when I'm doing all my manis, I like to make sure that I apply my dip really thinly and really evenly. Since the light colors are going to be the base of your stamps, you want to make sure that you apply them as evenly as possible so that you give yourself a nice base to stamp over top of. When I'm doing dips with long nails, I definitely struggle a little bit more, and sometimes I flood my cuticles like I did on my middle nail. I forgot, sometimes I just kind of forget that my nails are longer and I need a little bit more dip base. Then I go in and I use too much dip base, but I try to quickly wipe it off before I go to the next layer just so that it doesn't stick on my skin. And once I finish dipping the 2 layers of the color, then I go in with my clear dip powder as the 3rd layer and then brush off the excess and activate that. Activating the clear before you go with your glitter is going to protect your lighter color nails, your solids, your shimmers. This way, when you're using a glitter with it, you're not going to get all kinds of glitter up in those solid or shimmer nails. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to dip chunkier glitters. This is like a medium chunk, this pink that I'm using. It's called You Must Make Haste, part of a Bridgerton collection. These are all from OG Dip Powder. And on my first nail, on my thumbnail, I did not shake up the glitters before I laid my nail into it. So you can see on my thumbnail that the coverage is not great over the top of my thumbnail, because anywhere, or at the tip of my thumbnail, if you're not shaking up the glitters, you're not going to allow all the glitters to get up to the top. And since I was going to do 2 layers, I wasn't as concerned about it, but I made sure that I wanted to show you guys the difference of what happens when you shake up the dip powder glitters versus you don't shake up the dip powder. You don't shake up the glitters. And I just give it a really little shake in the dip cup that I'm using. If you don't have dip cups, you can pour your glitters into cupcake liners. That works as well. But I stopped using cupcake liners because I kept knocking them over, and I started using these dip cups from SJ3 Designs that I absolutely love, and they're so much sturdier. So for somebody like me who's really rough and messy, this is definitely the way to go. And then whenever you're doing a chunky glitter, or really any kind of glitter, flake or foil, you want to press down the glitters, the flakes, the foils before you go into the next layer. I like to keep a piece of masking tape on one of the fingers of my opposite hand so I can press them down and I don't get any dip or any dip base stuck on my skin. We do not want to get dip or dip base or gels or really anything on our skin, because even with dip liquids and dip powders, they can still make you itchy, and you can also become allergic. It doesn't seem to be to the extent that gels are, but I don't want any type of allergic reactions because I want to be able to use all my beautiful dips and gels and everything as long as I possibly can. I'm going to give you a tip that I don't think I've ever said in a video before. I don't know how I've never said this, but knowing me, I'm super forgetful. If you're struggling with your glitter dips looking really chunky at the cuticle area, If you get a really good application on your first dip, on your second dip, you do not need to go all the way back to the edge of your cuticle. And I did that on this mani. Since my nails are long, especially, I didn't want them to look thick and chunky. So on my second glitter dip, I did not go back to the very edge of my cuticles. And then when you apply your clear dip powder over it, that just seals everything in, and you cannot tell that you didn't do 2 full dips. So I just go like a couple millimeters away from the back of my nails, the back of my cuticles, and that is how I get them not to look bulky back there. So once you're done, you activate all your nails, you file and shape them. You can do that. I did that off camera, and then you clean them really well with isopropyl alcohol. And now we're starting on our stamping. This is where you're going to want to be to start your stamping. If you don't want to use gels or can't use gels, that is totally okay. You can stamp with dips with absolutely no gels. So you do not need gels to do nail art if you can't use them or don't want to use them. So I like to do a layer of Maniology sticky base as the base on my dip nails when I don't want to use gels. And I've been doing that a lot just because it's pretty quick, and I've been really, trying to work on my stamping skills. I want to do this really cool double layer skull to make this a Halloween mani, because obviously like all my manis either have to be fall or Halloween right now. And I went through with the skull and I didn't pick it up that great. I went through with like the whole skull and I did not pick it up that well. You can see I did not pick up the entire thing. So what I realized when I was stamping this is typically when you're doing a stamp, you want to scrape it really hard. But when you're doing a really full stamp where it's like an entire image that doesn't have any like grooves in it, you don't want to swipe so hard or you're not going to pick up the whole image. So it took me a couple tries to get the image to pick up correctly, and I want to do it white with the black like actual face part over top of it. And doing both of them, I feel like every single nail stamping plate that you use feels a little bit different. And until you do a couple like scrapes and swipes, each image is going to pick up differently. So don't be discouraged if your stamped image does not pick up great on your first try. Okay, you can see me here. I did the skull probably like 4 times till I got it right, the base of the skull. And then till I did like the actual face part of the skull, I think I did another like 4 times. And I had to swipe more than I normally do. I don't know, my swiping was a little bit off. The night that I was doing this mani too, it just felt like I kept swiping either too hard or too gentle on the skull, but that's okay. All you have to do to fix that, you take acetone on a cotton ball and then clean off the stamping plate and then clean it off a little bit with isopropyl alcohol, and then you can do the stamp again. And as long as your nails haven't dried, you can quickly wipe it off just with alcohol. So I had stamped, you saw first, and I didn't like how it looked, so I just wiped it off with alcohol. You do have to scrub it like pretty well, but your nails are already sealed in. Your dip nails are sealed. They were activated. So wiping them off with extra alcohol is not going to affect them. It's not going to eat anything away like acetone would, which is why I love doing stamping over dip nails. I said do like a little chandelier on my pointer finger, and that one like I got in the first try. Some images are just like that. You just get the image and it picks up super easily on the first try, and other ones you have to try a couple times. That is okay. We're doing our nails at home. We're going to keep practicing and keep trying. Then once I'm done with a stamp, I like to let it totally dry for a couple minutes before I go through and I put over it the Maniology Smudge Free top coat. Now I will say with that top coat, it is not as shiny as what I like because I am used to gel and dip liquids, which are like insanely as shiny, especially the OG dip liquids are as shiny as gels. So I always go over that with the Seche Vide Fast Dry Super Shiny top coat, and it works really well. Then I have the layer of the Maniology Smudge Free top coat and then the Seche Vide over. And my nails will last for at least a week without any peeling of those nail polishes. Then you can go through and you can do the rest of your top coating with dip liquids. So what you'll want to do is you want to do all the same steps you do based on the liquids that you're using and just pretend like you're doing the stamp nails. So you'll see every single step that I do, I pretend like I'm doing those 2 nails that I stamped. And that is how you keep your timing correct if you love your dip liquids but still want to stamp with them. I have seen some people say that they apply clear dip powder over top of their stamp and then they finish their mani like normal with dip liquids over those nails that were stamped since they have clear dip powder over. But the one time I tried it, it was an absolute disaster. So since this method is working really well for me, I don't know if I'm going to try using clear dip powder over top of them again. If you want more easy nail art manis, especially with stamping, then make sure you check out this next video and I will help you learn. Thanks so much for joining me today, nail crew.